that could be something that happens, and it will certainly happen in some parts of Florida's Gulf Coast. Now, I know there's folks in Southwest Florida who remember Hurricane Charlie was projected to make a direct impact into Tampa Bay, and then it turned and went into Southwest Florida. I would just say the track may end up doing something similar, but this is a much different storm. Charlie was a lot smaller. It was powerful. It was a Category 4. Most of the damage from Charlie was from wind and wind destruction. What we have here is really historic storm surge and flooding potential. And so if you're looking at those places in Fort Myers, Charlotte County, Sarasota, the storm surge that you're going to see generated from this is going to far eclipse what we saw there. And so as you look to see what is going on with the local counties, there's evacuation orders that are in place on all these counties from Pasco and Pinellas down to the Fort Myers area. And our recommendation is to heed those evacuation orders. What those evacuation orders are doing is identifying people that live in areas that are vulnerable to major storm surge. And that storm surge can be life-threatening. There's certain things we can protect against in terms of the wind and the structures, and we've got great building codes. But when you have 5 to 10 feet of storm surge, that is not something that you want to be a part of. And Mother Nature is a very fearsome adversary. So please heed those warnings. You do not need to evacuate to another state. You don't need to go hundreds of miles away. There's shelters that are open in all of these counties at this point. The important part of if you're under an evacuation order is evacuate to higher ground that is going to be safe from the type of surge and flooding that we're fearing with this storm. Of course, there's certain Floridians that may live in mobile homes or manufactured housing that would be vulnerable. If you're under an order, of course, you want to be in a structure that is going to be able to withstand some of the hurricane winds. But by and large, we're looking at really, really major storm surge up and down the west coast of Florida. There are people that, of course, are evacuating on different roadways. There has been traffic, but there has not yet been the backups where FDOT and FHP have opened the emergency shoulder lanes. They will do that once sustained speeds are at 40 miles per hour or less. And so when that happens, they will make that call. People will be able to use those, but don't use it until then, because that obviously, carries some risk if people, don't know that that's something that is going on. You also can use things like Gas Buddy to find gas stations in the area that have fuel. And I would note, if you look at these updated tracks that we've been getting this morning, and I think you'll probably see that reflected in the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, you have potential paths of the storm entering Florida's Gulf Coast, cutting across the state and exiting into the Atlantic Ocean. That means some of those counties that are more interior, you could absolutely see power outages. You could see inland flooding. You could see various types of tree and damage from wind. So just be prepared for that. We were here 48 hours ago, and most of the solutions had it going up the coast, the west coast of Florida. Well, now most of them have it ramming into the state of Florida and cutting across. And so just be prepared for that and understand that that's something that could be happening. Visit Florida has partnered with Expedia to launch an emergency accommodations page. Anyone who has been ordered to evacuate can use this page to find available accommodations in other areas of the state by visiting expedia.com/Florida. Again, expedia.com/Florida. We have about 2.5 million Floridians that are currently under some type of an evacuation order. Make sure you know your evacuation zones, so you can find that at floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. And of course, if you are called upon to evacuate, make sure you take care of your pets. Don't leave your pets behind. when you're evacuating. And you know, there's pet-friendly shelters. There's things that can be done to take care of pets. We want to make sure. So there is information about planning for your pet at floridadisaster.org/plan prepare. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our friends. To find shelters, again, visit floridadisaster.org/shelters. floridadisaster.org/shelters. Most of these counties are going to have shelters within the county that are in higher ground. The buildings are going to be hurricane proof. They're going to be able to withstand a Category 3 hurricane in terms of the winds, but it's going to put you in a situation where you're not going to be vulnerable to the effects of the storm surge and the effects of the flooding. We have, of course, suspended tolls starting yesterday to assist people who may be moving around the state and following evacuation orders. You can look at those facilities at fdot.gov that list them. We may add more if there is a need to do that as the storm impacts other parts of the state, and we will make that announcement at the appropriate time. We have 26 school districts that have announced school closures, and you may very well have more as the track becomes more certain. If you want the most updated school information, go to fldoe.org/storminfo, fldoe.org/storminfo. We have 5,000 National Guardsmen that are activated. We've got 2,000 additional Guardsmen from other states.
No crooked establishment. None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They
Let me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.